Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architect of Contingencies. The security checkpoint at Boston Logan International buzzed with the usual Friday afternoon chaos. Desmond Rollins stood 6 feet tall in his tailored Navy suit, a hard-shell carry-on at his side. At 46, he had the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much, his dark hair graying at the temples, deep lines carved into his forehead from years of calculated frowning. He checked his watch, an analog Patek Philippe gifted to him on his 5th wedding anniversary, and frowned at what he saw. Late. Again. Desmond was known in certain circles as the architect, the man who designed fail-safes for the world's most powerful people. His firm, Contingency Partners, specialized in crisis management for the elite. CEOs, dignitaries, and tech moguls all came to him for the same reason. When everything went wrong, Desmond Rollins had already planned for it. Everyone except his wife. She's not coming, is she, Mr. Rollins? Lydia, his assistant, materialized beside him. At 32, she'd worked with him for 7 years, longer than most marriages in his social circle lasted. Give her 5 more minutes, Desmond replied, his Boston accent barely perceptible after years of deliberate practice. Vanessa has the board meeting today. Lydia's expression remained professionally neutral. The meeting ended an hour ago. Your wife's executive assistant confirmed she left the building. With Mr. Blackwell. Something cold settled in Desmond's stomach. Thad Blackwell, his wife's COO and right hand at Nexus Dynamics, the tech company she'd built from the ground up. The company Desmond had secured from day one, installing protocols and systems that had prevented 3 major hacking attempts and 1 corporate espionage case. Not that Vanessa ever acknowledged that. Call her again, Desmond instructed, but he already knew. 5 minutes later, his phone lit up with a text from his wife. Something came up with the Dubai investors. Taking the company jet. You know how to handle yourself. See you when I'm back. V. No apology. No offer to send the car. Just the assumption that he would adapt, like he always did. As he stared at the message, another text arrived, taking Thad with me. Need my COO's expertise on this one. Of course she did. He was about to pocket his phone when it rang. Unknown number. Mr. Rollins? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. This is Brielle Winters, personal assistant to Mr. Whitman at Monarch Solutions. Desmond straightened. Winston Whitman was the CEO of the largest private security firm in Europe and a potential client he'd been pursuing for months. Mr. Whitman had to make an unexpected trip to Paris tonight. He understands you're currently in Boston, but he has a 5-hour window tomorrow afternoon and would like to meet in person. He's authorized me to arrange transportation if you're available. Desmond looked at the departure board, then at his unused first-class ticket to the Caribbean, the second honeymoon Vanessa had reluctantly agreed to after canceling the last 3 vacations. I'll be there, he said. Send the details. As he hung up, his phone chimed with an incoming email. A flight confirmation to Charles de Gaulle, departing in 90 minutes. Business class. Desmond smiled for the first time that day. 20 minutes later, as he waited at his gate, his phone buzzed again. His home security system had been triggered. The perimeter alert. He opened the app and watched through the cameras as a sleek black Audi pulled into his driveway. Vanessa stepped out, dressed impeccably in a crimson suit that probably cost more than some of his clients' monthly salaries. Thad Blackwell followed, his hand resting on the small of her back in a gesture that was anything but professional. Desmond increased the volume. He'll be stuck in the Caribbean by the time he realizes, Vanessa was saying, laughing as she unlocked the front door. God, can you imagine his face when he gets to the resort and finds out his key doesn't work? The man plans for nuclear fallout but can't see what's right in front of him, Thad replied. His hand moved lower. 4 days alone. No husband. No interruptions. No more pretending, Vanessa added, turning to kiss him deeply before they disappeared inside. Desmond watched them enter his house, the house he designed with security features that could rival a government facility. Each room was equipped with state-of-the-art surveillance that Vanessa had always complained about. Paranoid, she'd called him. Now her words served a different purpose. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Lydia," he said calmly. "Initiate protocol, Icarus." There was a pause on the other end. "Sir? That's the contingency for." "I know what it's for. Execute immediately." "And Lydia?" "Every recording, every file, every contingency plan. It's time." As his flight began boarding, Desmond switched his phone to airplane mode, leaned back in his seat, and opened his laptop. The screen filled with a countdown timer, T-minus 10 hours until Icarus activation. By the time his plane reached cruising altitude over the Atlantic, the program was already crawling through every network, system, and device connected to Vanessa Rollins and Thad Blackwell. By morning, it would have everything he needed. Desmond smiled at the flight attendant who offered him champagne and closed his laptop. "Celebrating something special, sir?" she asked. "The beginning of the end," he replied pleasantly, raising his glass in a silent toast. Chapter 2. The Paris Gambit. Paris greeted Desmond with drizzling rain and gray skies, matching his mood perfectly. He bypassed the usual tourist accommodations, opting instead for a discreet apartment in the 7th arrondissement owned by a former client. The place was sparse but functional, with windows overlooking a small courtyard that provided both privacy and multiple exit routes, a habit Desmond couldn't shake even when off-duty. His meeting with Winston Whitman wasn't scheduled until 3, giving him ample time to set the next phase of his plan in motion. He unpacked his laptop and connected to a secure server hosted in a country with conveniently lax cybersecurity laws. "Protocol Icarus status?" he asked aloud. His custom AI assistant responded immediately. "Data collection phase complete. Awaiting authorization for phase 2. Desmond reviewed the findings. Hundreds of text messages, emails, and calendar entries documenting Vanessa and Thad's affair going back 18 months. But more interesting were the business communications. Plans to take Nexus Dynamics public with a splashy IPO, contingent on the success of their newest product, Nexus Shield, a comprehensive security platform that Vanessa had pressured Desmond to help design. A security platform built on his proprietary algorithms and insights, which he'd reluctantly contributed as a favor to his wife. The same wife who had been planning to divorce him once the product launched and the company valuation soared. "Execute phase 2, Desmond commanded, "and connect me with Leona." Minutes later, a secure video call connected him with Leona Reeves, a former NSA analyst who now worked as an information specialist for select clients. With her silver-streaked black hair and perpetual expression of mild amusement, she looked more like a university professor than someone who could dismantle a person's digital life in hours. "The prodigal husband awakens," she greeted him. "I was wondering when you'd finally see through that woman." "Skip that 'I told you so' speech," Desmond replied. "Is it done?" Leona's smile widened. "The foundation is laid. Your protocol Icarus is impressive. Never seen anything penetrate systems that quickly. The data's flowing in faster than we can process it. And the special modifications I requested, in place and undetectable. When you push the button, every digital door your wife thinks she controls will either lock or swing wide open. Your choice, room by room." Desmond nodded. "What about Monarch Solutions?" "Winston Whitman is genuine. He wants your services, but not for the reasons you think. His company's facing internal sabotage. He suspects someone on his executive team. That's why the sudden meeting." "Perfect timing," Desmond murmured. "I need access to his resources." "Be careful, Des. Using a client's infrastructure for personal vendetta crosses lines even I try to avoid." "It's not a vendetta," Desmond corrected her. "It's a contingency I always knew I might need." Vanessa just triggered it sooner than expected. After ending the call, Desmond showered and changed into a fresh suit. The meeting with Whitman went exactly as he'd anticipated. The CEO was desperate for help identifying the saboteur, and Desmond's reputation preceded him. By the end of their 3-hour discussion, Desmond had not only secured a lucrative contract, but also gained access to Monarch's extensive global security network. Back at the apartment that evening, Desmond received the notification he'd been waiting for. The tracker he'd installed on Vanessa's private jet showed they had returned to Boston. They'd be feeling secure now, thinking he was thousands of miles away at a Caribbean resort, completely unaware of their betrayal. He opened his laptop and initiated the next phase. At precisely 8:47 p.m. Paris time, 2:47 p.m. in Boston, an email was delivered to Vanessa Rollins' personal account, her work email, and even the secret address she used for communication with Thad. The subject line was simple: Protocol Icarus activated. The body contained only an image, a high-resolution photo of Vanessa and Thad entering Desmond's home the previous day, time-stamped, along with a single line of text. Every contingency planned for. Even you. Attached was a single audio file, a recording from his bedroom, capturing intimate details of their conversation, including their plans for the company and for Desmond himself. Then he waited, watching through the home security system as Vanessa opened the email on her tablet. The color drained from her face. Her hands shook as she called for Thad, who had been pouring drinks in the kitchen. Desmond's 20-year-old scotch, he noted with bitter amusement. Within minutes, Desmond's phone exploded with notifications. Vanessa was calling, texting, emailing, her messages growing increasingly frantic. "Where are you? We need to talk. This isn't what you think. Answer your damn phone. Desmond, don't do anything stupid. Whatever you think you know, you don't understand the full picture." By message 20, the tone had changed. "You're overreacting. It was one mistake. Everything I built is at stake. Think about what you're doing to us." By message 50, she was threatening. "You signed an NDA. You can't use any company information. I'll ruin you if you try to hurt Nexus. No one will hire you after I'm done." By message 100, she was pleading, "Please, Des, let's talk about this. I still care about you. Don't throw away 15 years over one indiscretion." Desmond watched it all unfold with clinical detachment, recording every reaction, every panic conversation between Vanessa and Thad as they tried to figure out what he knew and what he planned to do with the information. "He's bluffing," Thad insisted, his earlier confidence now brittle with fear. "He's just trying to scare us." "You don't know him like I do," Vanessa responded, pacing the living room. "Desmond doesn't bluff. He plans. If he sent this, he's already 10 steps ahead." "Then what the hell is Protocol Icarus?" Vanessa stopped pacing, her face ashen. "It's what he designs for his highest-profile clients. A failsafe that activates when everything else goes wrong. A scorched earth contingency." "Jesus Christ, Vanessa, you married a psychopath." "No," she whispered, staring at her phone as another email arrived. This one containing bank statements showing unusual transfers from Nexus accounts to offshore holdings. "I married a man who sees 10 disasters ahead and prepares for all of them. And I just triggered his doomsday scenario." In Paris, Desmond closed his laptop and poured himself a glass of Bordeaux. He'd given them just enough information to panic, but not enough to counter his real plan. Now, they would make mistakes. Desperate, panic mistakes. And he would be waiting. Chapter 3, The Doomsday Protocol. Dawn broke over Paris as Desmond finalized preparations in his temporary apartment. His phone had finally stopped buzzing around 3 a.m. 155 messages from Vanessa in total, ranging from rage to bargaining to threats. Thad had called 17 times, leaving increasingly hostile voicemails. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. Protocol Icarus wasn't just about exposing their affair or their plans to push him out after the IPO. It was a comprehensive dismantling of the false reality they'd constructed, one where Vanessa was the brilliant visionary and Desmond merely her supportive, somewhat paranoid husband. What they didn't know, what almost no one knew, was that Desmond had been the silent architect behind 3 critical technologies that formed the foundation of Nexus Dynamics' success. Technologies he'd gifted to Vanessa during happier times, asking only that his contribution remain private. "She's called every contact at every security firm in Boston," reported Lydia during their encrypted morning briefing. "She's trying to trace the data breach." "There is no breach to trace," Desmond replied, adjusting his tie in preparation for his second meeting with Whitman. "The systems are working exactly as designed. They're just serving a different master now." "The board members have been receiving anonymous information packets," Lydia continued, for have already called emergency meetings with their attorneys. Desmond nodded. And Nexus Shield? The development team found the backdoor you inserted. They're scrambling to patch it before the demonstration next week, but they won't succeed, Desmond finished for her. Not without the original architecture diagrams, which are now corrupted in their system and locked in your personal vault, Lydia confirmed. Mr. Rollins, they're going to come after you with everything they have. I'm counting on it. His second meeting with Winston Whitman proved even more productive than the first. Not only had Desmond identified the likely internal saboteur at Monarch, but he'd also secured access to the company's private security force, a team of former military specialists who operated in the gray areas where law enforcement couldn't or wouldn't tread. Your reputation undersells you, Rollins, Whitman said as they concluded their business. When can you start implementing the full protection package for Monarch? My team begins today, Desmond answered smoothly. But I'll need to handle a personal matter before I can fully commit. Whitman's eyes narrowed slightly. The incident with your wife? Desmond stiffened. You're well informed. I wouldn't hire a security consultant without vetting them first, Whitman replied with a thin smile. Your wife's company is making waves, not all positive. There are rumors about the Nexus Shield product, vulnerabilities that were intentionally overlooked. Is that so? Nexus Dynamics has a demonstration for their top clients in 3 days. A public launch the following week. If there are indeed problems with their security platform, it could be catastrophic, especially for the financial institutions that have already committed to implementing it. Desmond understood the unspoken question. My personal situation won't interfere with our agreement. I didn't imagine it would, Whitman said, sliding a key card across the table. Consider this a professional courtesy. Access to Monarch's resources while you're in Europe. Whatever you need. By mid-afternoon, Desmond had established a command center in a secure room at Monarch's Paris headquarters. Multiple screens displayed real-time data from Boston. Nexus Dynamics stock price fluctuating as rumors spread. Security camera feed from the company offices showing frantic activity. Vanessa's private calendar suddenly clearing as she called emergency meetings. Most importantly, he could see the desperate attempts to salvage Nexus Shield before the demonstration. The development team had been working through the night, trying to close the backdoor Desmond had built into the system, a backdoor that would allow anyone with the right key to access every client's data once the platform went live. A backdoor only Desmond could close. At precisely 5 p.m. Paris time, he activated the next phase of Protocol Icarus. Every executive at Nexus Dynamics simultaneously received an email containing preliminary findings from a security audit that had uncovered critical vulnerabilities in Nexus Shield. The report was detailed, technically sound, and damning, suggesting not negligence, but deliberate malfeasance. The source appeared to be a legitimate cybersecurity firm, though, in reality, the report had been crafted by Desmond himself, using actual vulnerabilities he'd discovered during development. Within an hour, the company's legal team was in crisis mode. 2 major clients had already called to express concerns. The board was demanding answers. And still, Vanessa didn't understand the full scope of what was happening. That changed at 7 p.m. when Desmond finally answered one of her calls. "Where the fuck are you?" she demanded, her voice hoarse from hours of panic. "Hello, Vanessa," he replied calmly. "Enjoying the house? I see you've been making yourself comfortable in my absence." "Cut the games, Desmond. What did you send to the board?" "To our clients." "The truth. Something you've had difficulty recognizing lately. If you're trying to tank the company because you're upset about Thad." "This isn't about your affair," Desmond interrupted, his voice still eerily calm. "Though I admit, sleeping with my COO in my bed showed a particular lack of imagination on your part." "Then what do you want? Money? Your name on the patents? A public acknowledgement of your contribution? Tell me, and let's end this." Desmond laughed softly. "You still think this is a negotiation? It's not. Protocol Icarus isn't a bargaining strategy, Vanessa. It's what happens when there's nothing left to save. You're going to destroy everything we built together over wounded pride? No, I'm going to watch you destroy it yourself, scrambling to fix problems you don't understand, making promises you can't keep." He paused. "The demonstration is in 3 days. Let's see if you can salvage Nexus Shield by then. For your sake, I hope your team is better than you think they are. Desmond, please. Goodbye, Vanessa. Give Thad my regards. Tell him the guest room would be more appropriate. The master bedroom cameras are particularly high resolution. He ended the call and turned to find Leona watching him from the doorway of the command center. That was cold, even for you, she observed. It's not even close to what they deserve, Desmond replied. What's the status on their financial records? Better than we hoped. Extensive evidence of Thad manipulating R&D budgets to divert funds to projects under his direct control. And something interesting about the Dubai investors Vanessa supposedly met with yesterday. They don't exist. The trip was a complete fabrication. And the real purpose? Leona handed him a tablet displaying flight records and hotel reservations. Your wife and her boyfriend were meeting with Helios Tech, your biggest competitor. Preliminary acquisition talks from the look of these documents. They were selling the company? Desmond's composure cracked slightly. Before the IPO? Selling you out, more precisely. The draft agreement specifically excludes you from any transition role or equity position post-acquisition. Desmond absorbed this new betrayal, adding it to the growing ledger of Vanessa's deceptions. Accelerate the timeline. I want everything in place before they can regroup. Leona said cautiously. Once we move to the next phase, there's no pulling back. Your wife will lose everything. The company, her reputation, possibly her freedom if these financial irregularities are as serious as they appear. She lost me yesterday, Desmond replied. Everything else is just collateral damage. As night fell over Paris, he sent one final message to Vanessa. A simple video file showing the exact moment when she and Thad had first arrived at the house, planning to use the Caribbean trip to finalize their betrayal. The message contained no threats, no demands, no hints of what was coming next. Just a reminder that he had seen everything, heard everything, and planned for everything. And that the doomsday clock was still ticking down. Chapter 4. The Invisible Hand. Vanessa Rollins had built her reputation on unshakable confidence and poise under pressure. As she entered Nexus Dynamics' glass-walled conference room for the emergency board meeting, none of that legendary composure was evident. Her normally perfect hair was hastily styled, her designer suit slightly rumpled. Dark circles shadowed her eyes despite attempts to conceal them with makeup. Tell me we've contained this, she demanded before even taking her seat at the head of the table. Porter Reynolds, the company's chief legal counsel, cleared his throat uncomfortably. That depends on your definition of contained, Vanessa. My definition is stopping whatever the hell my husband is doing before our stock drops any further. The 10 board members exchanged uneasy glances. Abigail Sinclair, the eldest and most respected among them, spoke first. Vanessa, the board has some concerns about these security reports. Are they accurate? Does Nexus Shield actually have these vulnerabilities? Every software has vulnerabilities, Thad interjected smoothly, taking the seat beside Vanessa. That's why we have updates and patches. These aren't typical bugs, said Kenneth Walsh, former cybersecurity executive and the most technically knowledgeable board member. These are architectural flaws that suggest deliberate sabotage. The backdoor described here would give complete access to any client system once Nexus Shield is implemented. That's absurd, Vanessa insisted. We've had 3 independent security audits, all conducted by firms you selected, noted Abigail, and none disclose these specific issues, because they don't exist. Vanessa slammed her hand on the table. This is my husband's attempt at revenge, because she stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd been about to reveal. Because of your affair with Mr. Blackwell? Abigail finished for her, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. Yes, we're aware. Anonymous emails with rather convincing evidence arrived this morning. Vanessa's face drained of color. That's a personal matter, not when it affects the company, Kenneth countered. Not when the husband in question designed critical components of our flagship product. Desmond was a consultant, nothing more, Thad said dismissively. His contribution is being grossly overstated. Another board member slid a document across the table. Then perhaps you can explain why the original architecture diagrams for Nexus Shield list him as lead architect? Documents your office claimed didn't exist when we requested them last quarter. Thad faltered. That was an early draft. The final product is substantially different. Is it? Kenneth asked. Because our development team has been working around the clock and can't close the back door without Desmond's encryption key. This is corporate terrorism. Vanessa exploded. My husband is trying to destroy everything we've built because he can't handle a failing marriage. The room fell silent. Abigail Sinclair removed her glasses slowly. Vanessa, the board has voted to postpone the Nexus Shield demonstration until these security concerns are fully addressed. Furthermore, we've engaged an independent forensic accounting team to review the company's financials, given some irregularities that have come to light. You can't do that, Vanessa whispered. The demonstration is our moment. Every major financial institution will be there, which is precisely why we can't risk a catastrophic security failure, Abigail replied. This isn't personal, Vanessa. It's fiduciary responsibility. Give us 48 hours, Thad pleaded. We'll prove these vulnerabilities are overstated. After tense negotiations, the board agreed to delay their decision until the following day, giving Vanessa and Thad one last chance to salvage the situation. As they left the boardroom, Vanessa pulled Thad into an empty office, closing the door behind them. Call every developer, every engineer. I want them working in shifts until they fix this. Vanessa, if what the board said is true, if Desmond really did build in a backdoor that only he can close, we're screwed. Then find him, she hissed. I don't care what it takes. He's not in the Caribbean. Find out where he went and get him back here. And then what? You think he'll help us after what we did? After what we planned to do? Vanessa's expression hardened. Everyone has a price, Thad. We just need to figure out what Desmond's is. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Desmond was watching the board meeting unfold through the company's own security system, a system he had designed with multiple access points that Vanessa had never known about. They're scrambling, Leona observed, monitoring the frantic activity at Nexus headquarters. Development team pulled in security consultants on speed dial, legal preparing for worst-case scenarios. Desmond nodded, satisfied, and the financial investigation already yielding results. The forensic team discovered the falsified investor reports within hours. They're now looking into the Helios Tech connection. Time to turn up the pressure, Desmond decided. Release Package 2 to the financial press. Anonymous source, untraceable. By afternoon, technology news sites were running stories about potential security flaws in Nexus Dynamics' upcoming product. The stock dropped 12% before trading was temporarily halted. Clients began calling, demanding reassurances that their data would be protected. And still, it was just beginning. At Winston Whitman's private office, Desmond met with Brooke Sullivan, head of Monarch's Special Operations Division. With her military bearing and penetrating gaze, she looked exactly like someone who solved problems that couldn't be discussed in polite company. Mr. Whitman speaks highly of you, she said, studying him carefully. Says you prevented a catastrophe for Monarch before it even materialized. Prevention is always cheaper than cure, Desmond replied. I assume he briefed you on my personal situation as well? Enough to know you're dismantling your wife's company piece by piece. Impressive, but what's your end game? Financial compensation? Public vindication? Justice, Desmond said simply. Vanessa and Thad didn't just betray me personally. They were prepared to release a fatally flawed security product to the market. A product that would have compromised data for millions of people across hundreds of companies. Out of incompetence, out of greed, the IPO timeline was aggressive. Addressing the vulnerabilities properly would have delayed the launch by months. They chose to ignore the risks. Brooke nodded slowly. And you want Monarch's help because they're not going to accept defeat gracefully. They've already hired private investigators to track me down. By tomorrow, they'll be desperate enough to try more direct approaches. You expect violence? I expect escalation, Desmond corrected. And I want to be prepared for every contingency. Including physical threats? Especially those. Brooke studied him for a long moment before sliding a secure phone across the desk. Direct line to my team. 24/7 coverage starts now. But Mr. Rollins? Monarch protects. We don't attack. Is that understood? Perfectly, Desmond assured her. I don't need attackers. I just need witnesses for what comes next. Back at his command center, Desmond received word that Vanessa had finally tracked him to Paris. Her private jet had filed a flight plan and would arrive the following morning. She's bringing reinforcements, Lydia reported. Thad, 2 security consultants, and the head of their legal team. Right on schedule, Desmond murmured. Is everything in place at Le Grand Palais? Yes. The conference room is booked under Monarch's name. Security protocols in place. Recording systems active. And our special guests. All confirmed. 7 board members, 3 major clients, and 2 financial journalists. They believe they're attending a confidential briefing about the Nexus Shield vulnerabilities. They are, Desmond said with grim satisfaction. Just not the briefing Vanessa would have authorized. That night, as Paris glittered outside his window, Desmond reviewed the final components of his plan. Everything had been designed, each step building on the previous one, leading Vanessa and Thad exactly where he wanted them. Tomorrow, they would walk willingly into the trap he had set, believing they were coming to confront him, unaware they were actually attending their own professional execution. The invisible hand that had been guiding events was about to become painfully visible. And by this time tomorrow, Vanessa would understand exactly what it meant to trigger Protocol Icarus. Chapter 5. The Paris Confrontation. Le Grand Palais Hotel stood like a sentinel in the heart of Paris, its Belle Epoque facade masking the cutting-edge technology within. In the executive conference room on the top floor, Desmond made final adjustments to the presentation system, each display panel showing a different aspect of Nexus Dynamics operations. Financial records, security reports, internal communications, and most damning of all, video recordings from his own home. Ms. Rollins' jet landed 20 minutes ago, Brooke Sullivan reported, her team strategically positioned throughout the hotel. They're en route now. ETA 12 minutes. Desmond nodded, feeling strangely calm. And our other guests? Already in the holding room next door. They're under the impression this is a confidential security briefing from Monarch. They don't know you're involved yet. Perfect. Desmond straightened his tie, a power move Vanessa would immediately recognize. Remember, no one enters this room until I give the signal. I want my wife to believe she has me cornered. Brooke frowned. That's a significant risk. Our intelligence suggests one of her security consultants is actually a private contractor with military background. I'm counting on it, Desmond replied. Vanessa always escalates when she's desperate. I need her to show her true colors in front of witnesses. As Brooke's team took their positions, Desmond stood alone in the center of the conference room, a solitary figure surrounded by digital evidence of his wife's betrayal. The final act was about to begin. Precisely 9 minutes later, the elevator doors opened, and Vanessa Rollins emerged, flanked by Thad Blackwell and 3 stern-faced men. Despite traveling overnight, she looked immaculate in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her face, however, betrayed the strain of the past 72 hours, the subtle tightness around her eyes, the too rigid set of her shoulders. Mr. Rollins is expecting you, the concierge informed them, directing them to the conference room. Vanessa hesitated briefly before pushing open the door, Thad and their entourage following closely behind. When she saw Desmond standing there alone, a flicker of triumph crossed her face. There you are, she said, as if she'd simply misplaced him temporarily. You've caused quite a stir, Desmond. Was it the attention you were craving? Desmond smiled thinly. Hello, Vanessa. You look tired. Transatlantic flights will do that, especially when taken in haste. Cut the crap, Thad interjected, moving protectively closer to Vanessa. You know why we're here. I know exactly why you're here, Desmond acknowledged, his gaze never leaving his wife. You're here because you finally realized I wasn't bluffing. Protocol Icarus isn't just a threat, it's already in motion. Vanessa gestured to the men behind her. Allow me to introduce Gerald Finch, our new head of security, and Philip Kramer, outside counsel specializing in corporate sabotage. She pointed to the third man, whose rigid posture screamed military. And this is Raymond Morris. His expertise is more specialized. Intimidation squad, Desmond observed. How predictable. This ends now, Vanessa declared. Whatever vendetta you're pursuing stops today. You've made your point. Have I? I don't think you understand what's happening yet. Desmond moved to the touchscreen control panel. Let me clarify. With a few taps, the room's displays illuminated, showing multiple angles of their Boston home. Specifically, Vanessa and Thad entering together 2 days ago. Invasion of privacy, snapped the lawyer, Philip. Illegally obtained surveillance. Actually, Desmond countered, it's my home, with security systems registered solely in my name, with explicit disclosure notifications that Vanessa signed acknowledgement of 3 separate times. Perfectly legal. He cycled through more displays, financial records, email exchanges, the draft agreement with Helios Tech. Where did you get these? Thad demanded, his face paling. I built your security infrastructure, remember? The system doesn't just keep people out. It monitors what happens inside. Desmond turned to Vanessa. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when you began systematically excluding me from company decisions? When you started transferring key patents to subsidiary holdings where my name was conspicuously absent? That was business, Vanessa insisted. Protecting the company's interests. Was it also business when you and Thad planned to sell to Helios without my knowledge? When you structured the deal to specifically exclude me from any transition role or equity position? Vanessa faltered slightly. How did you? I know everything, Vanessa. Every plan, every secret account, every falsified investor report. He looked directly at Thad, including the $2 million diverted from the R&D budget to offshore accounts. Creative accounting, but not quite creative enough. The lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Rollins, these accusations are serious and potentially libelous. If you've accessed company systems without authorization. Oh, I had authorization, Desmond interrupted. Complete and permanent authorization, built into the very foundation of Nexus Dynamics infrastructure. Vanessa insisted on it. Actually, she called it her insurance policy against external threats. He smiled coldly at his wife. Ironic, isn't it? Vanessa's composure finally cracked. What do you want, Desmond? Money? Recognition? Your name on the patents? Tell me your price so we can end this farce. It's far too late for negotiation, Desmond replied. But I'm curious, did you really think you could fly to Paris with your boyfriend and hired muscle and what? Threaten me into submission? Force me to hand over control of systems I designed. If necessary, said Raymond Morris, the military contractor, speaking for the first time. His hand moved subtly toward his jacket. Desmond noticed the movement and shook his head. I wouldn't. This room has more security than most government facilities. Any aggressive move would be unwise. Enough games, Vanessa snapped. Nexus Shield demonstrates in 24 hours. The vulnerabilities need to be fixed. You built the back door. You can close it. I could, Desmond agreed. But I won't. Not anymore. You'll destroy the company out of spite? No, Vanessa. I'm going to save it from you. Before she could respond, Desmond tapped the control panel again. The side door opened, and Winston Whitman entered, followed by 7 Nexus Dynamics board members, 3 major clients, and 2 financial journalists. The color drained from Vanessa's face as she recognized them. What is this? Accountability, Desmond answered simply. These people deserve to know the truth about Nexus Shield before they stake their reputations and their client security on it. For the next 30 minutes, Desmond presented the evidence he had gathered. The critical vulnerabilities in Nexus Shield, the financial irregularities, the secret negotiations with Helios Tech, the deliberate concealment of security flaws to meet the IPO timeline. Throughout the presentation, Vanessa and Thad grew increasingly agitated, interjecting with denials that sounded hollow against the weight of evidence. The board members watched in stunned silence, occasionally conferring in whispers. When Desmond finished, Abigail Sinclair rose from her seat, her expression grave. Ms. Rollins, Mr. Blackwell, in light of this information, the board is calling an emergency session effective immediately. Until this matter is resolved, you are both suspended from your duties at Nexus Dynamics. You can't do that, Thad protested. This is a setup. The evidence speaks for itself, Kenneth Walsh responded. Particularly the financial discrepancies, which I've independently verified during this presentation. Vanessa turned to Desmond, her eyes blazing with hatred. You planned this all along. Waited until I was vulnerable, then struck. No, Vanessa, Desmond corrected her quietly. I simply prepared for the day when your ambition would outweigh your integrity. Today is that day. As the room emptied, with board members and clients departing to discuss the implications, Vanessa remained behind, dismissing her entourage with a sharp gesture. When they were alone, she approached Desmond, stopping just short of arm's reach. This isn't over, she said, her voice low and dangerous. You've won this round, but you've made powerful enemies. Enemies who won't forget what you've done. I'm counting on it, Desmond replied calmly. Because now everyone knows exactly what happens when they cross me. Protocol Icarus isn't just about destruction, Vanessa. It's about consequences. You've destroyed everything we built together. No, Desmond corrected her. I've reclaimed what was mine. The company will survive, possibly even thrive without your reckless leadership. Nexus Shield will be delayed, properly secured, and eventually released. The clients will stay because the core technology is sound. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. But you won't be there to see it. By this time tomorrow, you'll be fighting criminal charges for financial fraud. The evidence has already been provided to the appropriate authorities. For the first time, genuine fear flashed across Vanessa's face. You wouldn't. I already have. Desmond checked his watch. In fact, federal agents should be securing your offices in Boston right about now. Standard procedure in financial crimes investigations, preventing evidence destruction. As if on cue, Vanessa's phone chimed with an incoming call. The caller ID showed her company's security chief in Boston. With one last look at the man she had fatally underestimated, Vanessa answered the call and walked away, her empire crumbling with each step. Desmond watched her go, feeling not triumph but a cold, empty certainty that justice was finally being served. Protocol Icarus had performed exactly as designed, not just dismantling Vanessa's power, but ensuring she would face the consequences of her actions. As the door closed behind her, Winston Whitman approached, an appreciative gleam in his eye. Masterfully executed, he commented, though I imagine there will be blowback. There always is, Desmond acknowledged. But I planned for that too. Indeed, as he gathered his materials and prepared to leave the conference room, Desmond knew that Vanessa would not accept defeat quietly. The confrontation in Paris was just the beginning. The real war was still to come. Chapter 6, Counterattack. 3 days after the Paris confrontation, Desmond sat in Winston Whitman's private office at Monarch's London headquarters, watching real-time updates from Boston Scroll across multiple screens. The fallout had been swift and merciless. Federal investigators had seized computers and records from Nexus Dynamics, focusing particularly on the financial irregularities Desmond had exposed. The board had voted unanimously to remove Vanessa and Thad from their positions pending the investigation. The Nexus Shield demonstration had been canceled, with a press release citing technical refinements as the reason for delay. Most importantly, Vanessa's carefully constructed public image had shattered. Technology blogs were having a field day with the story. The visionary CEO exposed as a fraud who had taken credit for her husband's innovations while planning to cut him out of the company. Drink, Whitman offered, pouring himself a generous scotch. Not yet, Desmond replied, his attention fixed on the security feed showing federal agents escorting Thad Blackwell from his condo in handcuffs. The job isn't finished. Your wife hasn't been arrested, Whitman observed. She's more careful than Thad. Better lawyers, too. But her time will come. A notification flashed on one of the screens, an alert from Desmond's personal security system. Someone had attempted to access his cloud storage using Vanessa's credentials. She's getting desperate, Desmond murmured, typing rapidly to trace the intrusion attempt. The location pinged back to a luxury hotel in downtown Boston. Too predictable, Vanessa. Whitman watched him work with evident appreciation. Monarch's offer still stands, you know. Chief Security Architect. Global responsibilities. Compensation package that would make your previous consulting fees look like pocket change. I'm flattered, Desmond said, still focused on countering Vanessa's digital probe. But I've learned my lesson about mixing business with personal relationships. This wouldn't be personal. This would be recognizing exceptional talent. Whitman leaned forward. Your protocol Icarus system, with appropriate modifications, could revolutionize our corporate security offerings. Desmond finally looked up, his expression guarded. Icarus wasn't designed for commercial application. It's too aggressive, too invasive. Precisely why our clients would pay premium rates for it. Whitman smiled thinly. Think about it. After all, your wife isn't the only CEO with secrets to protect or expose. Before Desmond could respond, Lydia's urgent call came through. Mr. Rollins, we have a situation. Your Boston residence has been breached. Security protocols activated, but... Show me, Desmond demanded, switching screens to access his home security system. The footage showed 4 men in tactical gear systematically searching his house, bypassing some security measures while triggering others. Their movements were precise, professional, military or ex-police, definitely not common burglars. Identity matches? Desmond asked. One confirmed. Raymond Morris, the contractor who accompanied your wife to Paris. Desmond's expression hardened. They're looking for leverage. Physical evidence, backup drives, anything they can use to counter the digital trail. Should I alert local authorities? Lydia asked. No, let them search. They won't find anything of value. Desmond had removed or secured all critical materials before implementing Protocol Icarus. Keep monitoring. If they plant anything, listening devices, explosives, I want to know immediately. After ending the call, Desmond turned to find Whitman watching him with renewed interest. Your wife just escalated to breaking and entering, the older man observed. Possibly destruction of property. That crosses a line from corporate dispute to criminal activity. Vanessa always believed rules were for other people, Desmond replied. But this is clumsy, even for her. She must be truly desperate. Setting you up, Whitman suggested. A woman with her resources doesn't send hired thugs unless there's a specific objective. Desmond considered this, then quickly accessed another security system, one monitoring his private storage facility in Geneva, where his most sensitive contingency files were kept. The alert was immediate and alarming. Unauthorized access attempt 15 minutes ago. She's making coordinated moves, Desmond realized. The house search is a distraction. They're after my backup files in Switzerland. Whitman was already on his feet. My jet is fueled and ready. We can be in Geneva in under 2 hours. I need to get there first, Desmond said, gathering his equipment. Those files contain evidence that goes beyond Nexus, information about other clients, other contingency protocols. Information that could be valuable to competitors, Whitman noted, his tone carefully neutral. Information that could get people killed, Desmond corrected him. I don't just protect corporate secrets, Winston. Some of my clients have enemies who wouldn't hesitate to eliminate problems permanently. Within 40 minutes, they were airborne, Desmond working furiously from the plane's secure communication system. The Geneva facility was one of the most secure private vaults in Europe, with biometric authentication and redundant security protocols. It would take more than common thieves to breach it, but Vanessa had resources and desperation on her side. I've alerted facility security, Desmond informed Whitman as they began their descent into Geneva. No confirmed breach yet, but their systems detected sophisticated probing of the biometric scanners. Your wife doesn't have access? Vanessa never knew this facility existed, Desmond explained. It was my personal insurance policy, something separate from our shared assets. But she's resourceful. If she found my connection to it, she might have found a way in. Whitman finished the thought. Upon landing, they were met by Brooke Sullivan and a Monarch security team, already briefed and ready. Facility security reports unusual activity in the service tunnels beneath the vault level, she informed them as they drove into the city. Possible attempt to bypass the main entrance security. Classic penetration technique, Desmond muttered. Vanessa must have hired specialists. When they arrived at the nondescript office building housing the secure facility, everything appeared normal. No visible security breach, no signs of forced entry. The facility manager, a composed Swiss woman with the demeanor of a bank executive, greeted them in the private lobby. Mr. Rollins, we've initiated Level 2 protocols as requested. Your vault remains secure, but our sensors detected unauthorized personnel in Maintenance Area B approximately 30 minutes ago. Show me, Desmond demanded. Security footage revealed 2 technicians in facility uniforms accessing an electrical panel near the climate control system for the vault level. Their credentials appeared legitimate at first glance, but Desmond immediately spotted the discrepancy. Those aren't facility employees, he said. The uniform patches are wrong. The stitching pattern is offset. Professional forgeries, but not perfect. We've dispatched security, the manager assured him. But they seem to have left the premises already. They're not gone, Desmond insisted. They're just moving to Phase 2. His instincts proved correct. When they accessed the vault level, everything appeared normal until Desmond inspected the environmental control panel near his private vault. They've installed something, he observed, carefully examining the modified panel. Some kind of bypass device. Brooke moved closer, her expression grim. Not just a bypass. That's a specialized atmospheric manipulator. Military grade. It can gradually change the oxygen levels in a sealed room. Desmond understood immediately. They're planning to trigger the emergency protocols. If oxygen levels drop below threshold, the vault's failsafe will initiate, venting the space and temporarily disabling the biometric scanners during the reset. A 15-second window, the facility manager confirmed, clearly disturbed. Just enough time for someone with the right tools to access the secondary mechanical lock. She's getting smarter, Desmond acknowledged grimly. But still not smart enough. Instead of removing the device, Desmond modified its settings, creating a silent alert that would trigger when anyone attempted to activate it. Then he entered his vault, quickly verifying that nothing had been disturbed yet. Inside was a comprehensive archive of his most sensitive work. Client files, contingency protocols, and most importantly, the complete documentation of Protocol Icarus, including elements he hadn't yet deployed against Vanessa. Desmond selected specific files, transferring them to a secure drive, then implemented additional security measures within the vault itself. Now we wait, he told Whitman when they returned to the lobby. They'll make their move soon, probably after hours when the facility is minimally staffed. You're using your vault as bait, Whitman observed. Risky strategy. Calculated risk, Desmond corrected. I need to know who Vanessa hired and what specifically they're after. This isn't just about financial records anymore. This is about finding something she can use against me. They established a surveillance position in an office with direct view of the facility entrance. Monarch security team monitoring all access points. As night fell over Geneva, the facility entered its overnight security protocol. Fewer staff, enhanced automated systems. At precisely 1:17 a.m., the atmospheric device activated. Seconds later, alarms triggered throughout the vault level as oxygen levels began dropping. They're making their move, Brooke announced, her team already mobilizing. Through the security cameras, they watched as an emergency vent sequence initiated. During the momentary security reset, a figure in maintenance coveralls appeared from a service corridor, moving with practiced efficiency toward Desmond's vault. That's not Raymond Morris, Desmond noted, studying the intruder's movements. Different physical profile, different tactical approach. Professional, Whitman agreed. Military background, possibly special forces from the movement patterns. The intruder reached the vault during the security reset window, quickly attaching a specialized device to the mechanical lock. For 15 critical seconds, the vault was vulnerable as the security system recalibrated. But when the reset completed, something unexpected happened. Instead of opening, the vault sealed completely, initiating a secondary protocol that Desmond had installed years ago and activated just hours earlier. The intruder's body language registered surprise, then alarm as additional security measures engage around them. Before they could retreat, Monarch's security team converged from multiple entry points. The capture was efficient and professional. Within minutes, the intruder was secured in a facility holding room, their equipment confiscated. When Desmond entered, accompanied by Brooke and Whitman, the intruder sat calmly, hands cuffed to the table. With their tactical mask removed, Desmond found himself looking at a woman in her late 30s, with sharp features and cold, assessing eyes. Mira Voss. Brooke identified her immediately. Former Israeli intelligence, now freelance operational specialist. Very expensive talent. Where's Raymond Morris? Desmond asked directly. Voss smiled thinly. Mr. Morris handled the preliminary assessment. I handle the precision work. What exactly were you hired to retrieve? You know how this works, Mr. Rollins. Client confidentiality. Desmond leaned forward. Your client is my wife. She sent you to steal evidence that would implicate her in financial crimes. That makes you an accessory. My contract was specific, Voss replied unperturbed. Secure the protocol Icarus documentation and any related contingency files. Nothing about financial records. Desmond frowned, momentarily confused. Vanessa doesn't care about the protocol itself. She wants the evidence it collected. Are you certain about that? Voss asked, something like amusement flickering in her eyes. Perhaps your wife understands more about your work than you've given her credit for. The implication hit Desmond with unexpected force. Vanessa wasn't just trying to destroy evidence against her. She was trying to acquire the protocol Icarus system itself, possibly to use against him or to sell to competitors. Who else knows about this operation? Whitman demanded. Voss merely smiled. Professionals don't discuss their support networks. She's not working alone, Brooke concluded after they left the holding room. This was too sophisticated, too well-resourced for a single operative, even one of Voss's caliber. Vanessa's building a team, Desmond realized. This isn't just about damage control anymore. She's planning a counteroffensive. Whitman's expression grew grave. If your wife acquires your protocols and methodology, the implications go far beyond your personal vendetta. She could weaponize your systems against Monarch's clients, against global financial institutions. She wouldn't understand how to implement them, Desmond argued, but doubt had crept into his voice. Are you certain? Whitman pressed. You lived with this woman for 15 years. Shared your home, your thoughts. How much did she absorb about your methods without you realizing? It was a disturbing question, one that forced Desmond to reevaluate his assumptions about Vanessa. He had always seen her as brilliant, but focused on the public-facing aspects of business. The vision, the branding, the investor relations. He had handled the invisible infrastructure, the security, the contingency planning. But what if she had been paying more attention than he realized? As local authorities arrived to take custody of Voss, Desmond made a decision. We need to accelerate the timeline, he told Whitman. Protocol Icarus was designed to systematically dismantle Vanessa's position over weeks. We don't have that luxury anymore. What are you suggesting? Full deployment. All evidence, all system vulnerabilities, all contingency triggers, activated simultaneously. Desmond's expression hardened. It's time to end this. As they departed Geneva in the pre-dawn hours, heading back to London, Desmond received an encrypted message from Lydia. Secondary breach detected at Boston residence. Physical evidence planted in home office. Local authorities alerted to possible criminal evidence by anonymous tip. Attached was security footage showing Raymond Morris carefully placing something in Desmond's desk drawer, something that glinted metallically in the low light. She's trying to frame me, Desmond realized, studying the footage. Probably a weapon used in a crime, something that would trigger an investigation. Classic diversion tactic, Whitman observed. Keep you defending against false accusations while she mobilizes her real countermove. Desmond nodded grimly. She's learning, adapting her tactics. Does that concern you? No, Desmond replied, his voice cold with certainty. It makes what comes next easier to justify. As the plane soared through darkness toward London, Desmond opened his laptop and initiated the final phase of Protocol Icarus, the complete, irrevocable deployment of every contingency measure he had designed. The system responded with a simple prompt. Full activation requires authorization. This action cannot be undone. Proceed? Y/N. Without hesitation, Desmond typed, Y. The doomsday countdown had begun. Chapter 7. The Zugzwang Maneuver. Vanessa Rollins had always considered herself exceptional at crisis management. Throughout her career, she had weathered public relations disasters, market downturns, and betrayals by trusted allies. But nothing had prepared her for the systematic dismantling of her life that had begun 5 days ago at Boston Logan International. They've frozen everything, her attorney, Calvin Pierce, informed her as they sat in his private office overlooking Boston Harbor. Personal accounts, corporate holdings, even the property in Nantucket. He can't do that, Vanessa insisted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Those are joint assets. Not anymore, Calvin replied, sliding court documents across the polished table. These were filed 3 days ago in 7 different jurisdictions. Your husband has been meticulous, documenting financial irregularities, establishing separate ownership of intellectual property, even providing evidence that company funds were used for personal expenses. That's absurd. Desmond benefited from those same expenses. Except he has documentation showing he objected to them and maintained separate accounts for his personal expenditures. Calvin removed his glasses, looking genuinely concerned. Vanessa, this goes beyond a divorce dispute. The federal investigation is gaining momentum. 3 board members have already provided testimony about the Nexus Shield vulnerabilities and the decision to proceed despite known risks. Vanessa paced the office, her designer heels clicking sharply against the hardwood. Thad should never have handled the financial transfers directly. I told him to use intermediaries. Mr. Blackwell is cooperating with investigators, Calvin informed her reluctantly. His attorney is negotiating a plea deal in exchange for testimony. That bastard, Vanessa hissed. After everything I did for him, we have more immediate concerns, Calvin continued. The attempt to access your husband's vault in Geneva has complicated matters significantly. Ms. Voss is in custody, and while she hasn't revealed her employer, the circumstantial evidence points clearly to you. She can't prove anything. Our communications were completely secure. Perhaps, but the timing is damning. And now this planted evidence in your husband's home office. Calvin shook his head. It was amateurish, Vanessa. The local police recognized the setup immediately. That was Raymond's operation, Vanessa dismissed irritably. I told him it was too obvious, but he insisted it would create enough doubt to slow Desmond down. Calvin looked increasingly uncomfortable. As your legal counsel, I have to advise you that continuing these counter-operations against your husband is exponentially increasing your legal exposure. At this point, your best option is to negotiate, return whatever you've acquired of his, cooperate with investigators, and aim for settlement that keeps you out of prison. Negotiate. Vanessa's laugh was bitter. Calvin, you don't understand what we're dealing with. Desmond doesn't want a settlement. He doesn't want money or recognition or even an apology. He wants annihilation. Then give him something else he wants, Calvin suggested. People like your husband, people who create elaborate revenge scenarios, they usually have a deeper motivation. Find it. Leverage it. Vanessa fell silent, considering his words. What did Desmond truly want? Not the company. He could have taken control years ago if that had been his objective. Not public vindication. He had always preferred working in the shadows. Not even punishment for her affair. He was too pragmatic to destroy everything over wounded pride. He wants control, she realized suddenly. Not of Nexus, not of the technology, but of the narrative. Desmond has always been obsessed with controlling variables, with planning for every contingency. Then change the narrative, Calvin advised. Do something he hasn't planned for. Something outside his elaborate scenarios. As Vanessa left her attorney's office, a notification appeared on her phone. An alert from the executive assistant she had retained despite being removed from Nexus Dynamics. The message was brief but devastating. Emergency board meeting concluded. Unanimous vote to cooperate fully with federal investigation. Company cooperating with search warrants for all documentation related to Nexus Shield development and financials. Mr. Rollins appointed as interim security consultant to address product vulnerabilities. They had brought Desmond back into the company. Her company. Instead of returning to her hotel, Vanessa directed her driver to a nondescript office building in Cambridge. The security guard recognized her despite her attempt at a low-profile appearance. Large sunglasses, hair tucked under a cap, minimal makeup. Ms. Rollins, he greeted her, clearly surprised. We weren't expecting you. I need to speak with Oscar. Is he in? Dr. Lindholm is always in, the guard replied with a knowing smile. 9th floor, you remember the way. Oscar Lindholm's laboratory looked like a cross between a tech startup and a mad scientist's workshop. Gleaming equipment juxtaposed with chaotic whiteboards covered in equations and diagrams. The man himself stood in the center, a lanky figure with wild gray hair and the intense focus of someone who forgot to sleep when problems needed solving. Vanessa, he acknowledged without looking up from his workstation. I wonder when you would appear. Your husband has been quite thorough. Then you know why I'm here. Oscar finally turned to face her, his expression unreadable behind round spectacles. I know that Nexus Shield is fundamentally compromised. I know that federal investigators are questioning everyone involved in its development. And I know that approaching me now poses a significant legal risk for both of us. I need access to the original architecture, Vanessa said bluntly. The framework Desmond designed before we modified it for a commercial application. Impossible. Those files were purged during the beta transition, on your instructions, if I recall correctly. We both know that's not true, Vanessa countered. You never delete anything, Oscar. It's why I hired you in the first place. Your pathological inability to discard data, no matter how obsolete or dangerous. Oscar's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Even if such files existed, accessing them now would constitute interference with a federal investigation. Obstruction of justice, at minimum. I'm not interested in justice, Vanessa replied coldly. I'm interested in survival. Desmond has deployed something he calls Protocol Icarus against me. I need to understand it to counter it. For the first time, genuine interest flickered across Oscar's features. Icarus? The contingency system he designed for high-risk clients? I've heard rumors, but never seen documentation. He's using it to systematically dismantle everything I've built. Not just the company, but my reputation, my finances, my future. Fascinating, Oscar murmured. A comprehensive security protocol weaponized for personal vendetta. The ethical implications alone. Oscar, Vanessa interrupted sharply. Focus. Can you help me or not? The scientist removed his glasses, polishing them before responding. I may have retained certain elements of the original architecture. For academic purposes only, you understand. I need them. Now, what you're suggesting is extraordinarily risky. Even accessing these files creates a digital footprint. Then ensure the footprint leads somewhere else, Vanessa insisted. You've done it before. After a moment's consideration, Oscar moved to a separate workstation isolated from a main network. What exactly do you hope to find in these files? A vulnerability, Vanessa replied. Every system has one. Even Desmond's. For the next 3 hours, they worked in tense silence, Oscar extracting and decrypting fragments of code that had formed the foundation of Nexus Shield. What emerged was a complex architecture far more sophisticated than Vanessa had realized. Layers upon layers of security protocols, each with redundancies and fail-safes. Your husband is meticulous, Oscar observed, genuine admiration in his voice. This isn't just corporate security. This is nation-state level infrastructure. He always did over-engineer everything, Vanessa muttered, though she couldn't entirely suppress her own grudging respect for Desmond's work. Wait, Oscar said suddenly, focus intensifying as he isolated a section of code. This is unusual. A secondary authentication protocol, separate from the main security framework. What does it do? It It appears to be some kind of override system. A backdoor, but not the one federal investigators identified. Oscar's fingers flew across the keyboard. This is brilliant. It's designed to appear as a standard security feature, but it actually provides authorized users with complete system access, bypassing all normal protocols. Can you activate it? Oscar hesitated. Theoretically, yes, but without knowing the specific triggers, attempting to force access could alert the primary user, your husband. Do it anyway, Vanessa ordered. I need to see what he's doing, what he's planning next. After multiple failed attempts and increasingly complex workarounds, Oscar finally established a tenuous connection to what appeared to be Desmond's command infrastructure, the bones of protocol Icarus itself. My God, he whispered as the system architecture visualized across multiple screens. This isn't just a security protocol. It's a comprehensive monitoring and intervention system. He's been tracking everything. Your communications, your movements, your financial transactions. Can you shut it down? Not remotely. The fail-safes are too robust. Oscar pointed to one section of the display. But there's something else here. The protocol isn't just targeting you and Nexus. It's connected to dozens of other systems, other organizations. What organizations? Financial institutions, security firms, regulatory agencies. Oscar's expression grew increasingly disturbed. Vanessa, I don't think your husband just built a revenge system. I think Protocol Icarus is connected to every major contingency plan he's ever designed for every client he's ever had. The implications struck Vanessa with physical force. He's using his entire professional network against me. No, Oscar corrected, pointing to a countdown timer embedded in the system. He's preparing to activate something much larger. This timer, it's synchronized across all connected systems. Whatever Icarus is ultimately designed to do, it's scheduled to happen in approximately 18 hours. Can you stop it? Not from here. The protocol is distributed across too many secure networks. Oscar removed his glasses again, this time rubbing his eyes tiredly. But I might be able to create a temporary disruption, enough to delay whatever he's planning. Do it, Vanessa commanded, and prepare secure transport. I need to get to London immediately. London? Why London? Because that's where Desmond is, Vanessa replied, already gathering her belongings. And if I can't stop Protocol Icarus remotely, I'll have to confront him directly. As she left the laboratory, Vanessa activated a new burner phone, her third in as many days, and made a call to the only person who might still be willing to help her. Thad, she said when he answered cautiously. I know you're cooperating with the investigation. I'm not calling about that. Vanessa, he replied, his voice tense. My attorney strongly advised against any contact with you. This isn't about us, or the company, or even the investigation. This is about Desmond. A pause. What about him? He's planning something. Something big. I need to know everything you discovered about his operations in Europe, specifically his connection to Monarch Solutions. Why would I help you now? You abandoned me to the federal investigators while you jetted off to Geneva on your ill-conceived mission. Because whatever Desmond is planning goes far beyond our personal drama, Vanessa insisted. This isn't just about destroying me anymore. Protocol Icarus is connected to every system he's ever built, every client he's ever protected. Think about the implications. Another longer pause. Winston Whitman, Thad finally said. That's his primary contact at Monarch. They've been working closely since Paris. Thank you, Vanessa said, surprised by his cooperation. Don't thank me, Thad replied bitterly. I'm not doing this for you. But I've seen what your husband is capable of now, and it scares me more than prison does. 8 hours later, Vanessa Rollins landed at London Heathrow, traveling under an alias with identification provided by the same network of specialists who had facilitated Mira Voss's ill-fated mission in Geneva. As her driver navigated through London traffic toward Monarch's headquarters, Oscar's voice came through on her secure earpiece. The disruption was partially successful, he reported. I managed to delay the countdown by approximately 6 hours, but the system is already implementing automated countermeasures. Whatever window we have is closing rapidly. Did you find anything else? Anything I can use? only that the protocol activation requires Desmond's direct biometric authentication for the final phase. Retinal scan, voice confirmation, and a physical key that he keeps with him. Then I need to get close enough to him to prevent that authentication, Vanessa concluded, or to force him to abort the protocol altogether. Be careful, Vanessa, Oscar warned. The more I study this system, the more I realize your husband wasn't just preparing for contingencies. He was preparing for war. As Monarch Solutions' imposing headquarters came into view, a gleaming spire of glass and steel in London's financial district, Vanessa felt a strange calm descend. For days, she had been reacting, defending, scrambling to counter Desmond's meticulous assault. Now, finally, she was taking initiative. In chess, there was a position called zugzwang, where any move a player makes will worsen their situation, but they must move anyway. Desmond had maneuvered her into zugzwang repeatedly over the past week. Now, it was her turn to force his hand. Chapter 8. The Final Gambit. Desmond Rollins stood at the window of Winston Whitman's private office, watching rain streak across the glass in chaotic patterns. London's skyline was muted by fog, buildings appearing and disappearing like uncertainties in his otherwise mind. The disruption has been contained, Lydia reported from the bank of monitors that had become their mobile command center. Protocol Icarus is back on schedule, though we lost approximately 6 hours. Oscar Lindholm, Desmond identified immediately. He's the only one with enough knowledge of the underlying architecture to attempt something like this. Confirmed, Brooke Sullivan added, entering with a tablet displaying security footage. Facial recognition picked up your wife entering Lindholm's laboratory in Cambridge yesterday. They were inside for nearly 4 hours. She's getting creative, Desmond acknowledged, a hint of professional respect in his voice despite everything. Using a direct assault when infiltration failed. The question is, what's her next move? Winston Whitman mused, examining the complex web of data points representing Protocol Icarus's current deployment status. She must realize she can't stop the protocol remotely. She'll come here, Desmond said with absolute certainty. Vanessa has always believed that enough pressure applied directly can solve any problem. She won't hide or retreat. She'll escalate. To what end? Brooke asked skeptically. Even if she reaches you physically, she can't force you to abort the protocol. The biometric requirements alone. She'll have a plan for that too, Desmond interrupted. Something desperate and probably crude, but potentially effective. As if summoned by his words, Lydia's system pinged with a priority alert. Facial recognition just flagged her at Heathrow, she announced, surprise evident in her voice. Traveling under an alias, but the match is confirmed. She landed 3 hours ago. She's moving faster than anticipated, Desmond noted, checking the Protocol Icarus countdown. 9 hours, 42 minutes remaining. Accelerate our timeline. Full activation in 2 hours instead of 8. That substantially increases the risk profile, Winston cautioned. Some elements haven't been fully tested under operational conditions. It's a calculated risk, Desmond replied. Better to execute at 90% readiness than give Vanessa time to implement whatever she's planning. As his team recalibrated the protocol's deployment sequence, Desmond withdrew to his secondary office. Once alone, he removed a small metal object from his pocket, a custom-designed key that, along with his biometric data, formed the final authentication mechanism for Protocol Icarus. The key represented the culmination of 15 years of contingency planning, not just for his marriage, not just for Nexus Dynamics, but for every system he had ever secured, every client he had ever protected. In chess terms, they were approaching the end game, that critical phase where the pieces are few, but the stakes are absolute. One wrong move could transform victory into defeat. Desmond had always excelled at endgames. A soft tone from his secure phone interrupted his thoughts. The message displayed was brief but momentous. Facial recognition match, Vanessa Rollins. Location, Monarch Solutions lobby. Time, 90 seconds ago. She had arrived sooner than even he had anticipated, boldly walking into the headquarters of the company now allied with her husband. either desperate or confident. Possibly both. Desmond activated the office's secure communication system. Lydia, implement security protocol Theta. No one reaches this floor without direct authorization. Already done, sir. Ms. Sullivan has deployed a tactical team to intercept your wife in the lobby. Tell them observation only, Desmond instructed. No interception yet. I want to see what she does. Through the building's security feed, Desmond watched as Vanessa approached the main reception desk. She had abandoned her usual power suits and designer accessories, opting instead for understated business attire that wouldn't attract attention. Her hair was styled differently, her makeup minimal, a calculated attempt to delay facial recognition. I have an appointment with Winston Whitman, she informed the receptionist with practiced confidence. Regarding the Nexus Dynamics situation, the receptionist checked his system, clearly finding no such appointment. I don't see anything scheduled. Ms. Pierce. Rebecca Pierce, from Calvin Pierce Associates. Mr. Whitman is expecting me. Vanessa presented credentials that appeared legitimate at first glance, another indication of her extensive preparation. One moment, please. As the receptionist made a discreet call, Brooke Sullivan's security team maintained positions around the lobby, observing but not intervening. Desmond smiled faintly. Vanessa was using Calvin Pierce's name, her attorney, to establish credibility. A small detail that suggested she was operating with limited resources now, improvising rather than executing a comprehensive plan. Sir, Lydia's voice came through the communication system. Mr. Whitman asks whether we should deny her access or allow her to proceed to a controlled location. Desmond considered briefly before responding. Allow her to proceed. Secure conference room D. Full surveillance, controlled entry and exit points. I want to hear what she has to say. Are you certain that's wise? Brooke questioned, her tactical training evident in her concern. She can't stop what's coming, Desmond replied confidently. But I'm curious about her approach. What does she think she can achieve at this point? 20 minutes later, Vanessa Rollins sat alone in conference room D, a space deliberately designed for sensitive meetings with potentially hostile parties. The table and chairs were bolted to the floor. The room had no windows. A single door provided the only entry or exit, controlled remotely and monitored constantly. Through hidden surveillance, Desmond observed his wife. She appeared calm, composed, but subtle indicators betrayed her stress. The rapid tapping of her fingers against the table's surface, the too frequent checking of her watch, the slight tension around her eyes. Protocol Icarus accelerated deployment at 70% completion, Lydia reported. Biometric authentication required for final phase in approximately 45 minutes. Acknowledged, Desmond replied, making his decision. I'm going to speak with her. Both Whitman and Brooke objected simultaneously. Completely unnecessary risk, from Brooke. She could have some form of weapon, from Whitman. She's been thoroughly scanned and searched, Desmond countered. And this confrontation was inevitable from the moment she abandoned me at the airport. I want to hear what she has to say before the protocol completes. Without waiting for further objections, Desmond made his way to the conference room. At the security checkpoint outside, he confirmed that Vanessa had indeed been scanned for weapons, electronic devices, or other potential threats. She had surrendered a smartphone and a tablet, both currently being analyzed by Monarch security team. When Desmond entered the conference room, Vanessa showed no surprise, only a cold, evaluating stare as he took the seat opposite her. Bold move, he observed, walking into your enemy's fortress. Is that what we are now? Enemies, Vanessa replied, her voice steady despite the circumstances. After 15 years of marriage, you made that decision at the airport, Vanessa. Everything since has just been consequences. She nodded slightly, acknowledging the point without conceding it. I underestimated you. A mistake I won't repeat. You never actually estimated me at all, Desmond corrected her. You saw what you wanted to see, a useful accessory to your ambition. Someone who could solve technical problems while you handled the real business. That's not fair, Vanessa objected, a flash of genuine emotion breaking through her controlled facade. I valued your contribution. You valued what I could provide. There's a difference. Desmond leaned forward slightly. But that's not why you're here, taking extraordinary risks with federal investigators hunting you back home. What do you want, Vanessa? I want you to abort Protocol Icarus. Desmond's expression remained neutral. And why would I do that? Because it's gone far beyond me, beyond Nexus, beyond our marriage, Vanessa replied, intensity building in her voice. I've seen the system architecture, Desmond. I know what Icarus is connected to. This isn't just about destroying me anymore. It's about triggering contingency protocols across dozens of organizations simultaneously. You've been talking to Oscar, Desmond surmised. He always was perceptive, if not particularly loyal. What happens when a countdown reaches 0? Vanessa demanded. Global financial disruption? Security systems failing across multiple industries? How many lives are you willing to impact just to ensure my destruction? For the first time, Desmond smiled, a genuine expression of amusement. You still don't understand what Protocol Icarus actually does, do you? Enlighten me. Icarus was never designed as a weapon, Desmond explained. It's an information distribution system. When fully activated, it delivers specific, targeted information packages to precisely the individuals who need to receive them. What information? The truth, Desmond said simply. About Nexus Shield's vulnerabilities. About the financial irregularities at Nexus Dynamics. About your plans to sell to Helios Tech without board approval. About your systematic effort to claim credit for innovations you didn't create. He paused, watching realization dawn on her face. But most importantly, about contingency violations across every system I've ever secured. You see, Vanessa, my clients don't just hire me to build security protocols. They hire me to ensure those protocols aren't compromised by anyone, including the clients themselves. So when the countdown ends, specific evidence packages will be simultaneously delivered to board members, regulatory agencies, law enforcement, and other relevant parties across multiple organizations. Not just about you and Nexus, but about every security violation, every unauthorized access attempt, every breach of protocol I've documented over 15 years. You destroy your own clients to get to me? Vanessa asked incredulously. Not destroy. Correct. Desmond's expression hardened. My responsibility has always been to the integrity of the systems I protect, not to the individuals who might compromise them, no matter who those individuals are. Including me, especially you. Vanessa fell silent, absorbing the full implications of what Desmond had built. After a moment, she tried a different approach. What would it take to stop it? Not just for me, but for everyone who might be affected? There must be something you want. There was, Desmond acknowledged quietly. 15 years of honesty. 15 years of partnership. 15 years of mutual respect. But that opportunity has passed. So, there's nothing I can offer, nothing I can say or do that would make you reconsider. Desmond studied her. This woman he had loved, supported, protected for 15 years. The woman who had dismissed him at a security checkpoint, laughing as she boarded a private jet with her lover. Protocol Icarus executes in approximately 30 minutes, he informed her dispassionately. At that point, everything becomes irreversible. Desmond, please, Vanessa said, desperation finally breaking through her composed exterior. Whatever I did to you, this goes beyond us now. Think about the collateral damage. I have, extensively, for 15 years. Desmond stood, preparing to leave. That's the difference between us, Vanessa. I've always considered the consequences. You never did. As he reached the door, Vanessa made her final play. What about our daughter? Desmond froze, his hand on the door handle. Slowly, he turned back to face his wife. What did you say? Sophie, Vanessa said, watching his reaction carefully. Our daughter, the one you never knew about. For the first time since the airport, Desmond felt genuinely blindsided. We don't have a child. Not one you knew about, Vanessa countered. After the second miscarriage, when the doctors said I might never carry to term, I didn't tell you about the third pregnancy. I couldn't bear another loss, another disappointment. So I went away, that 6-month executive retreat in Switzerland. I had her there, arranged a private adoption through connections I trusted. You're lying, Desmond said flatly, though doubt had crept into his voice. This is manipulation. Your last desperate play. Her name is Sophie Winters. She's 14 now, lives with her adoptive family in Vancouver. Dark hair like yours, same analytical mind. Her adoptive parents are good people, a doctor and a professor. They send me updates occasionally, photos. Vanessa reached slowly into her jacket pocket, watching as Desmond tensed, and withdrew a small photo. She placed it on the table between them. You can verify everything I'm telling you. Run DNA tests, investigate the adoption records. I know you will anyway. But right now, you need to understand that Protocol Icarus won't just affect me, or Nexus, or your clients. When those information packages go out, when the investigations begin, Sophie's adoptive parents will be exposed. Their privacy, their family, their daughter's life, disrupted forever. Desmond picked up the photo, a teenage girl with unmistakable features that mirrored his own. The shape of the eyes, the set of the jaw, details too specific to be coincidental. Why tell me this now? He asked, his voice barely audible. After all these years? Because it's the only thing I have left that might reach you, Vanessa admitted. The only truth I've kept that matters more than your revenge. For long moments, Desmond stood motionless, the photo in his hand, his carefully constructed vengeance suddenly complicated by this new variable. This child he had never known existed. Finally, he spoke. I need proof. Verification. You have 28 minutes before Icarus executes, Vanessa reminded him. Not enough time for DNA testing or comprehensive investigation. You'll have to make a choice based on incomplete information, something I know goes against everything you believe in. She was right, and they both knew it. For perhaps the first time in his professional life, Desmond faced a critical decision without adequate data, without contingency planning, without time for proper analysis. If you're lying about this, he began, his voice dangerous. I'm not, Vanessa interrupted. Whatever else I've done, however much I betrayed you, I wouldn't use our child as a bargaining chip unless it was true. Verify everything afterward. But right now, you need to stop the protocol. Desmond activated his communication device. Lydia, I need emergency verification on an adoption record. Sophie Winters, Vancouver, approximately 14 years old. Parents' professions, doctor and professor. Cross-reference with Swiss medical facilities from 12 to 15 years ago. Priority override. Working on it, sir, Lydia responded. But comprehensive verification will take at least several hours. We don't have hours, Desmond acknowledged grimly. What's the status of Protocol Icarus? Final authentication sequence initiating in 22 minutes. Biometric verification required at that time. Desmond made the decision that would haunt him for years to come. Implement Protocol Icarus Subset B, he instructed. Target-specific execution only. Sir, Lydia's surprise was evident. Subset B restricts information distribution to Nexus Dynamics-related targets only. All other client contingencies would remain dormant. Confirmed. Implement immediately. As Lydia complied, Desmond turned back to Vanessa, his expression unreadable. Nexus Shield will still be exposed. The financial irregularities at Nexus will still be reported. Your professional reputation will still be destroyed. But the broader contingency network will remain inactive for now. Thank you, Vanessa whispered, genuine relief washing over her features. Don't thank me yet, Desmond warned her coldly. If I discover you've lied about Sophie, about our daughter, there won't be a place on Earth where you can hide from what comes next. I understand. For the first time, a flicker of something like respect passed between them. Acknowledgement that in this final confrontation, they had both played their strongest hands. Vanessa had found the one variable Desmond hadn't accounted for, the one contingency he couldn't coldly calculate. As security personnel entered to escort Vanessa from the building, Desmond retained the photo, studying the young face that might be his daughter, the child who had unexpectedly altered the endgame he had so carefully designed. Winston Whitman found him there moments later, concern evident on his weathered face. You compromised the protocol, Whitman observed, not bothering to hide his disapproval. based on unverified information from a woman who has systematically betrayed you. I made a calculated adjustment, Desmond corrected him. The primary objective, Vanessa's accountability, remains intact. And if she's lying about the child, then Protocol Icarus can be fully reactivated at any time, Desmond replied, his voice hardening again. With certain enhancements I've been considering. Whitman studied him thoughtfully. You know, she still loses everything, even with a modified protocol. Nexus, her reputation, probably her freedom given the financial crimes evidence. Yes, yet you still compromise your master plan based on the mere possibility of a daughter you never knew existed. Desmond finally looked up from the photograph, his expression resolute despite the emotional turmoil beneath. Even the most comprehensive contingency planning can't account for every variable, Winston. Sometimes you have to adapt to new information in real time. A philosophical shift for you, Whitman noted with surprise. Not philosophy, evolution. Desmond carefully placed the photo in his jacket pocket. The protocol proceeds as modified. Vanessa still faces justice for her actions. But I won't risk collateral damage to an innocent child, especially not my own, without absolute certainty. As they returned to the command center to oversee the modified Protocol Icarus deployment, Desmond felt a strange sense of clarity. For days, his focus had been singular. Destruction of everything Vanessa had built, everything she valued. Now a new variable had entered the equation, a daughter who, if real, deserved consideration Vanessa herself no longer did. It wasn't mercy that had motivated his decision. It was something more fundamental. The architect's instinct to protect what he had helped create, even unknowingly. In less than 20 minutes, the modified protocol Icarus executed flawlessly. Information packages were delivered to federal investigators, Nexus Dynamics board members, and financial regulators. The evidence against Vanessa and Thad was comprehensive, damning, and irrefutable. But the broader contingency network remained dormant, waiting for either confirmation that Vanessa had told the truth or activation if she had lied. Either way, Desmond would be prepared. It was, after all, what he did best. Chapter 9, Aftermath. 3 months after Protocol Icarus executed its modified directive, Desmond Rollins stood at the window of his Vancouver hotel room, watching snow fall over the city. Winter had arrived early, blanketing the landscape in pristine white that reminded him of new beginnings. Appropriate, given his purpose here. His phone vibrated with an incoming message from Lydia. Confirmed location. Subject currently at school. Scheduled release in 22 minutes. Parents aware of your arrival and have consented to meeting under specified conditions. Desmond acknowledged the message with a simple thank you. Over the past months, Lydia had coordinated the extensive verification process that confirmed what Vanessa had claimed in that London conference room. Sophie Winters was indeed his biological daughter. The DNA test had been conclusive, a 99.9998% probability of paternity. The adoption records, though carefully obscured, had been located and validated. The Swiss medical facility where Sophie was born had provided confirmation, after appropriate legal pressure, that Vanessa Rollins had indeed given birth there 14 years ago. Most importantly, Richard and Eleanor Winters, Sophie's adoptive parents, had eventually agreed to meet with him after weeks of cautious negotiation through intermediaries. They had raised his daughter from infancy, given her everything he hadn't known to provide. Their fear of losing her was palpable in every communication, despite Desmond's repeated assurances that he sought connection, not custody. As he gathered his coat and the carefully selected gift for his daughter, a custom chess set with pieces designed to represent concepts in mathematics and physics, Desmond reflected on everything that had transpired since that pivotal moment in London. Vanessa's professional destruction had been swift and comprehensive. Federal charges for financial fraud had been filed within days of Protocol Icarus's execution. The SEC had opened multiple investigations. Former allies in the technology industry had distanced themselves completely. Nexus Dynamics had been restructured under new leadership, with Kenneth Walsh serving as interim CEO while the company recovered from a scandal. Thad Blackwell had indeed secured his plea deal, providing extensive testimony against Vanessa in exchange for reduced charges. He would still serve time. The financial crimes were too significant for complete immunity, but substantially less than he might have otherwise. As for Vanessa herself, she had fought the charges with characteristic determination, hiring the best defense team money could buy. But the evidence protocol Icarus had delivered was irrefutable. After weeks of legal maneuvering, she had accepted a plea agreement, guilty to multiple counts of financial fraud and securities violations in exchange for a 5-year sentence at a minimum security facility. Desmond had neither contested nor celebrated the outcome. His focus had shifted entirely to verifying Sophie's existence and determining how, or whether, to introduce himself in her life. Now, as his driver navigated Vancouver's snow-covered streets toward the private school where his daughter was completing her freshman year, Desmond experienced something unfamiliar: nervousness. He, who had planned for global financial catastrophes and coordinated security for heads of state, found himself unsettled by the prospect of meeting a 14-year-old girl who shared his DNA. The school was exactly what he had expected from his research: prestigious without being ostentatious, academically rigorous, socially progressive. The kind of institution he might have selected himself had he known of Sophie's existence. In the administrative office, he was greeted by Eleanor Winters, a composed woman in her early 50s with kind eyes and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions. As a professor of bioethics at the University of British Columbia, she had approached the situation with both emotional intelligence and analytical rigor. "Mr. Rollins," she acknowledged, extending her hand. "Thank you for respecting our conditions for this meeting." "Dr. Winters," Desmond replied, shaking her hand firmly. "I appreciate your willingness to facilitate this at all. I know it can't have been an easy decision." "No," she agreed candidly. "But Richard and I have always believed in honesty with Sophie. When we adopted her, we knew this day might come, though we certainly never anticipated the circumstances." "Does she know who I am?" Desmond asked, the question that had preoccupied him for weeks. "She knows you're her biological father. She knows about your professional background, in general terms. And she knows about the situation with her biological mother." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "She's 14, Mr. Rollins. Naturally curious and remarkably perceptive. She's researched you extensively since we told her about your contact." And her reaction? Cautiously interested. "Sophie processes things intellectually before emotionally, a trait you might recognize." Desmond nodded, unexpectedly moved by this simple connection. "I brought something for her. Not expensive, just personally significant." He indicated the wrapped chess set he carried. Eleanor studied him for a moment before responding. "Richard will bring her here after her last class. They should arrive momentarily. We've arranged for you to use the conference room. Neutral territory, as Sophie requested." As if on cue, the office door opened, and Richard Winters entered, a distinguished-looking man with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses that complemented his thoughtful demeanor. Behind him, partially obscured, stood a teenage girl. Sophie. Desmond's first thought was how clearly she resembled him. The same dark hair, the same analytical gaze, even the same slight furrow between her brows as she assessed the situation. But there were elements of Vanessa too, the determined set of her jaw, the grace with which she carried herself despite evident nervousness. "Dr. Winters," Desmond greeted Sophie's adoptive father, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." "Mr. Rollins," Richard acknowledged, shaking his hand briefly before turning to Sophie. "Sophie, this is Desmond Rollins." For a long moment, father and daughter simply observed each other, each taking measure in their own way. Then Sophie stepped forward, offering her hand with surprising formality. "Hello," she said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "I've read about your work in cybersecurity. It's interesting." "Thank you," Desmond replied, momentarily disarmed by her directness. "It's very good to meet you, Sophie." Eleanor guided them to the conference room, A comfortable space with natural light and a round table that eliminated power dynamics through its design, another indicator of the thought that had gone into this meeting. "We'll leave you two to talk," she said once they were settled. "Richard and I will be just outside if either of you needs anything." When they were alone, Sophie spoke first, surprising Desmond again with her composure. "Mom and Dad explained the situation with my biological mother," she said, watching his reaction carefully. "About the fraud charges and everything. That must have been difficult for you." "It was," Desmond acknowledged, appreciating her directness. "But finding out about you has been the most significant outcome of that situation." "Why did you want to meet me?" Sophie asked, the question both simple and profound. "You didn't know I existed until recently. You could have just continued with your life." Desmond considered his response carefully, recognizing the importance of this moment. "Because you are part of me, Sophie. A part one didn't know was missing. And because I believe you deserve the opportunity to know where you come from, if you choose to. Mom and Dad are my parents," she stated firmly, protective instinct evident. "They've raised me, loved me, been there for everything important." "I completely agree," Desmond assured her. "I have no intention of disrupting the family you have. Richard and Eleanor are your parents in every way that matters. I simply hope that, over time, you might allow me to know you, and perhaps for you to know me as well." Sophie studied him thoughtfully. "Mom says you design contingency plans. Preparations for when things go wrong. That's a good summary of my work, yes. Did you have a contingency plan for finding out you had a daughter?" The question caught Desmond off guard, though he realized it shouldn't have. This insightful directness was exactly what he might have expected from his own child. "No," he admitted with a small smile. "That was one variable I failed to account for. It's been a learning experience." "For me too," Sophie acknowledged, the first hint of vulnerability showing through her composed exterior. "I always knew I was adopted. Mom and Dad were always honest about that. But knowing about you, about my biological mother, it's complicated." "I imagine it is," Desmond said gently. "And I want you to know that this process happens entirely on your terms, Sophie. If you decide you prefer not to pursue any relationship with me, I will respect that decision completely." Sophie nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "I appreciate that. I'm not sure what I want yet." "That's perfectly reasonable," Desmond replied. "You've had far less time to process this situation than I have." A moment of silence stretched between them, not entirely uncomfortable. Sophie's gaze fell on the wrapped package Desmond had brought. "Is that for me?" she asked, curiosity evident despite her attempted nonchalance. "It is," Desmond confirmed, sliding the package across the table. "Something I thought might interest you, given what your parents have told me about your academic interests." Sophie unwrapped the gift, carefully removing the paper without tearing it, another trait Desmond recognized in himself. When she revealed the custom chess set, her eyes widened slightly. "The pieces represent mathematical and physics concepts," she observed, examining the detailed craftsmanship. "The knights are Schrodinger's equation, the bishops are Maxwell's equations, and the queen is Euler's identity," Desmond completed, genuinely pleased by her immediate recognition. "The most beautiful equation in mathematics, according to many, including me," Sophie admitted, a small smile forming. "How did you know?" "Your mother, Eleanor, mentioned your passion for theoretical physics. I share that interest. It's the foundation of much of my security work." Sophie carefully set up a few pieces on the board, her fingers tracing the intricate equations carved into each one. "Did you design this yourself?" "Yes. The actual crafting was done by an artisan in Prague, but the concept and specifications were mine." For the first time, Sophie looked at him with something beyond cautious evaluation, a flash of genuine connection. "Thank you. It's really thoughtful." The remainder of their meeting proceeded with increasing ease, Sophie gradually asking more questions about Desmond's work, his background, his interests. He answered honestly but carefully, mindful of not overwhelming her or speaking ill of Vanessa despite everything that had transpired. When Eleanor and Richard returned an hour later, they found father and daughter engaged in the opening moves of a chess game. Sophie explaining her strategy with animation that belied her earlier reserve. I should go, Desmond said, recognizing that this first meeting had already exceeded expectations. Thank you for this time, Sophie. I've enjoyed meeting you tremendously. Maybe we could do this again, Sophie suggested, surprising both her adoptive parents and Desmond himself. I'd like to hear more about your contingency work. It's relevant to game theory, which I'm studying in my advanced math class. I'd like that very much, Desmond replied, careful to look to Eleanor and Richard for their approval as well. We can arrange something, Eleanor confirmed with a gentle smile. Perhaps next month when Sophie's school term ends. As Desmond prepared to leave, Sophie asked the question he had been anticipating since the moment they met. Will I meet her too? My biological mother. The room grew suddenly still, Richard and Eleanor exchanging concerned glances. That would be her decision, and yours, Desmond answered carefully. Currently, she's serving a sentence for financial crimes, but she'll be eligible for supervised visits if that's something you both want. Did you love her? Sophie pressed, her perceptiveness cutting straight to the heart of matters. Before everything happened? Yes, Desmond acknowledged without hesitation. For many years, very deeply. But not anymore. No, he confirmed, his tone gentle but final. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, Sophie. But that has nothing to do with you or my feelings about meeting you. Sophie nodded thoughtfully. Understand. I'm good at compartmentalizing too. As Desmond departed the school, arrangements made for future contact under terms the Winters family was comfortable with, he felt a profound shift in his perspective. Protocol Icarus had been designed as the ultimate contingency, the fail-safe for when everything else failed. It had performed precisely as intended, delivering justice to those who had betrayed him. But it had also delivered something he had never anticipated, a daughter who might, in time, become an important part of his life. Back at his hotel, Desmond found a message waiting from Winston Whitman. Board has approved your appointment as Chief Security Architect, effective immediately. Paris headquarters ready when you are. The Icarus methodology has significant commercial potential with appropriate modifications. Accompanying the message was a news alert. Federal prosecutors had filed additional charges against Vanessa based on new evidence discovered during their investigation. Her plea deal was in jeopardy, with the potential for a significantly longer sentence now likely. Desmond closed the notification without response. Vanessa's fate no longer commanded his attention or energy. Justice had been served. The contingency had executed. His focus had shifted entirely to the future, and to the unexpected connection he had found amid the ruins of his past. 2 days later, as Desmond prepared to depart Vancouver for Paris to assume his new position at Monarch, a final message arrived from Lydia. Package delivered as instructed. Recipient in custody acknowledged receipt. In a minimum security federal detention facility, Vanessa Rollins received an envelope containing a single chess piece, a fallen queen, and a brief note. Protocol Icarus complete. Our game is finished. Sophie will make her own decisions regarding contact. You will never contact me again. There was no signature needed. The message was clear, as was the finality it represented. Their marriage, their professional entanglement, their mutual destruction, all concluded. Desmond had emerged not just intact, but stronger, with unexpected new connections and possibilities before him. As his plane departed Canadian airspace, Desmond closed the file on Protocol Icarus permanently. The contingency had served its purpose. Justice had been delivered. The betrayal had been answered with methodical, precise retribution. And the architect of contingencies had discovered that even the most carefully designed systems sometimes produced unexpected, even welcome, outcomes. In Paris, a new headquarters awaited him. In Vancouver, a daughter he had never known existed was considering the possibility of knowing him. And in a federal detention facility, the woman who had betrayed him faced the consequences of her actions. Alone, her empire dismantled, her reputation destroyed, exactly as Protocol Icarus had been designed to ensure. The final contingency had executed flawlessly. Game over. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.